Hello YouTube. This will be my first video here. First time even using a video editor, but with the release of QAnon's information and questioning, there are some things to me that I thought were pertinent to get out um, to the community at large. And I'm going to preface this by saying that this is in relation to the CIA. The CIA MKUltra program, the one that QAnon was talking about, Alice in Wonderland, the the Follow the White Rabbit stuff, and some of the other things that he had said that I equated to the MKUltra program myself, and I don't want you guys to turn this off right away because I'm jumping right into it, but I'm going to jump right into it anyway. In 1988, I believe it was, Kathy O'Brien came out. Oh, there it is, 1988. I remember that correctly. She came out and talked about mind control and some of the different aspects of mind control. This book I've gotten of hers called Transformation of America, and in that book she talks about some very key elements that I'm going to touch on here. One of those was a very dangerous game that she played with a Dick Cheney. And in this very dangerous game, as she described it, Dick Cheney would release her and then chase her down with dogs and guns. And then at the conclusion of that chase, there was a violation of her person and her personal space. And I just say that she was raped and tortured after the fact. That's important to note because of a recent lady that came out named Becky Percy. She came from England, and she describes in this testimony on this, and I'll try to link a description to this video so that you guys can look over the information that I'm getting to you and see if the connections that I've made here in this video are the same connections that you would also infer. You know, take it for what you will. I'm just a guy, and I'm telling you other people's stories, but I've seen some connections, and I want you guys to see them. Anyway, she talks about being in the woods in one of her videos, and I think it's this one, where she talks about her testimony. She says that she was out in the woods and she was being chased down with guns and dogs as well, parallel to that of Kathy O'Brien. Kathy O'Brien talks about different heads of states and other things that seem to be plaguing us right now. And I don't know how to stop that from putting the whole thing on, but you know, the opiate addiction, pedophilia, and child trafficking, as it relates to Pizzagate and the like, and some of the things that are coming out in Hollywood. Talking about Harvey Weinstein, and you know, there's a whole lot going on, and I think President Trump is kind of following exactly what she has put together. She's put a lot of work into the Senate, but I wanted the people of the public to kind of understand this information. She also is missing her daughter, and she has been missing her daughter since the time that she was an MKUltra slave. She talks about how her daughter was taken from her, and she wasn't allowed to get her child back for reasons of national security. What does a child have to do with national security? They raised Kathy from a very young age to an adult as a sex slave, and so they also used her daughter, and they did a lot of things to her and her daughter in the presence of one another in order to further their control of their mind. It's more of a constraint of like displaying some sort of power over a person and not letting them be able to fight those constraints. And so that is what the very dangerous game has to do with keeping her online, letting her know that there was no place to run and there was no place to hide, and that she'll always be caught regardless. And I apologize for any traffic that goes by during this audio. Hopefully that's not an issue for you guys. So she has the testimony. In this testimony, she also goes over a point in her life where she is trying to protect a very young child, a baby even, and that baby is taken from her and murdered right in front of her. And that's another guilt and angst that they have to live with through their life as a mind control slave is something that they have to deal with on a regular basis. And she had to deal with that sort of thing. The reason I note that is not to bring it up and make you guys ill because of things she had to endure, but to show the connections between her and Kathy O'Brien, as well as the connections to this gentleman. This is Paul Bonacci. As you can see over here on the side, it's got an interview with Noreen Gosh, and these two are very related because Ted Gunderson had done a lot of looking into Noreen Gosh's missing son, Johnny Gosh. I could put up a website, take you to a website, Why Can't Johnny Come Home, and show you some of the evidence. But she's done a very good job of putting together that evidence, and maybe I'll link that in the description as well. But she talks about her missing son from the first time. Her son was one of the first two children on the milk cartons, if I understand my history correctly. If not, then you guys can correct me in the comments or whatever. But Paul Bonacci talks about taking some of the children that he had stolen and then having them take place or witness the murder of a very young child or someone of their own age to show the reality of what could be done to them themselves. And he did this and then had them go with him to a place to bury the remains of that child. After doing so, he describes that that those children would then be discredited when they went and told authorities. Whenever they would go to authorities and say, we were told to kill a child, or we witnessed the murder of a child, and they buried him over here, and then they would go to the place where Paul Bonacci would later go back to dig up the body and move it in order to discredit the child. And taking the credibility away from the child is very important, because anything they say from there on out will only further reinforce the constraints they have on them. Nobody will listen to him. The child has cried wolf at that point, and once wolf has cried, you can't take it back. So the credibility of the children, and then they move on from there. And this guy parallels that same thing. So I'm thinking that if anybody went to the spot that she remembers and tries to look up where that child's body was, then they wouldn't be able to find it, and she would then be discredited, and then the public would look at her as a liar or somebody that's not credible. Also highlighted this here. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is from December of the end of last year, right before the new year of 2017. She came from Britain or England or whatever one that's from exactly. And I don't have an excerpt that I want to show you from her film. I just wanted to kind of put her face up so that you could see whom I'm talking about. And I'll again leave a link to this video in the description so that you guys can follow up on any of the things I say here, if it makes sense to you. So we have Paul Bonacci, and he I believe he was linked to the CIA Finders cult. And that's important because of the state of affairs that's going on right now. I don't know if you guys are paying attention to the covert ops that are going on, but some people are talking about how the CIA is attempting to assassinate Donald Trump's son. They're also in some serious constraints. Their budget has been off the books for years, and they've been able to operate without impunity here in the United States. But another thing to note is that she's from Britain, and I don't think that the CIA has any control in Britain. Um, color me purple or tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think the CIA has any foothold there. So why is that important exactly? Well, the reason that that's important is because of what Bryce Taylor discloses here, and I'll let her tell it because she's better at explaining these things than myself. I'm not the person that was involved in this, but I will show you the people that were.
See, and I also witnessed as a child and as adult that a lot of this New World agenda is fueled by the secret societies, and the ones that I was abused by were the Shriners, and also the Masonic Order people are reporting Masonic abuse and by 33rd degree Masons, and most all of our presidents, for information, were 33rd degree Masons, and that makes them privy to this mind control information. This is the secret that they rise through the ranks to learn about, and at the top, what they participate in as a seal of their oath of secrecy is often satanic ritual, and myself and others were laid on altars and raped, and this happened as a child and as an adult. So this is part of how it continues. There are hand signals. The Shriners and the Masons at the top have hand signals where they signal each other and alert brothers so that they can have full cooperation. And this even happens in court cases where children are the non-offending parents trying to get a child into the safety and of their home, and a Masonic judge or a Masonic attorney will give a hand signal or do the little things, and that child is, the whole case is dropped and the child is left with the perpetrator. So these things are real, and they're still happening today. Henry's strategy.
It's important to note here that I let that play to the point where they discredited children, or they talked about how the offending parent, was trying to get back the child, and then they would have the Masonic order in very key positions like a judge or an attorney, or most likely the judge. And that brings me to the point of this video here. And I'll put a link to the description in this one as well. But the Hampstead pedophilia ring, misspelled, but they've done a good job of putting together the videos that are in this. And maybe this is not misspelled because I've heard different pronunciations of pedophiles and pedophiles and pederasty and things. So I could be very wrong that this is not spelled correctly, but I was assuming pedophilia. But anyway, these children account the very same thing that Bryce was talking about there, being in a satanic ring and being a part of rituals. There are times where Kathy O'Brien talks about being a chosen one, and there are other times where the Hampstead children talk about other children being, the special children, or whatever. They're marked with tattoos, and they're special children. And the reason they are is because of the the links to the MKUltra type program. I think in Britain It might be the Monarch program, and I think that the going back to this video when she talks about it being a satanic cult, it's very important to note that I think this whole trial got thrown out because they called it a satanic cult, and there was no proof of satanic cult, which to me says that the vernacular or the words that they use or type of the type of language that you use in describing this is very important. If they called it a satanic cult and it was thrown out because there was no evidence of a satanic cult, as I've been doing more and more research into this, and this rabbit hole goes pretty deep, guys. She actually talks about it being a satanic cult, and a lot of other people say that they are talking about worshiping Lucifer or the Lightbringer, the illuminated one, if you will. They talk about Lucifer as part of this cult, so I think that that was a technicality that they might have gotten around this case that Ted Gunderson and her put together. And I may be wrong on that, don't quote me. But that's just a speculation or a piece of like information that I thought maybe we should notate. And this isn't, obviously, this is not who we talked about earlier with Kathy O'Brien. This is Bryce Taylor, who has a book for sale also. I own this book and I own this book here. Both of these ladies are MKUltra victims who both no longer have their children even to this day. They're still trying to find their children and bring them back from this underworld. And so the same thing is happening to Mrs. Grieva with these two children. The court case was taken away, and these two children were given back to the custody of their father, who's depicted here in this one. This Trust Your Gut gentleman is talking about how to spot a liar, and you can see that this actor puts together a show, but he talks. I mean, if you want to check out this video, you certainly can. But I don't want to get too far off topic. I want to kind of stay on topic and not show you all of the evidence that I've looked at over the years. This is also another good video. This guy does a good job of explaining how these two are British citizens and their claims have to be followed up on instead of just dismissed because they're children. And that's kind of what this comes down to, is these guys are dismissed because they're children. They talk about some very specific details that it's hard for their mother to coach them through. And if you watch this video on your own and you can stomach it, you'll see that these children seem genuine in the beginning, and then at the end, when the final interviews are conducted, they turn it around on the stepfather and say that he abused these children, and that's the reason that they're saying what they're saying, because they were coerced into doing so. But if we go back to Bryce Taylor in this particular video that like I said, that I'll leave a link to, she talks about how she woke up from her MKUltra trance by crashing and her head going through the windshield, and it brought back events from her time in trauma. She said she went through the windshield and then she could start seeing different aspects of her life as an MKUltra slave, and that trauma brought it back together. Bryce seems to have reached out to Kathy, and Kathy seems to kind of be trying to discredit her, and I'm not sure if that's part of the program that neither of them are aware of, or if Mark Phillips maybe is a handler for Kathy and trying to bring their version of the truth into the light, but it doesn't seem like it. I mean, he seems like a genuine dude. But it's just some things that have crossed my mind, and some things, reasons that I don't know if they got together. But that being set aside, so that we can get right to the point, these guys, their stepfather actually hit them on the heads with some spoons in order to induce some sort of trauma to get them to open up about what was going on. And from what I understand about Britain, there are a lot of um, sanctions against Freemasons taking political office in order to prevent uh, some sort of thing. They have to announce that they're Masons and that they are not allowed to take up offices. So I wonder if they understood this information long before us, like what Bryce had said, or maybe he had done some of the research on his own. But he struck them on the head in order to get them to unlock their memories, and then they were able to tell their story. And the police that were looking into it, sorry about the siren. The police that were looking into it accused him of abuse and coercion of the child in order to make them say what he wanted them to say. And I believe it to be the same thing, that he was trying to induce some sort of trauma in order to unlock their suppressed memories. So, as Bryce said at the end of that, these children are now with their father, and the mother is no longer allowed access to these children, and he's allowed to continue the programming that has already been um, started with these two children. They didn't remember anything about these things, and when um, Mrs. Grieva came in and seen these two looking at each other's private parts, she became very concerned and was trying to get to the bottom of it, and then this whole thing blew up, and there was, apparently some knowledge on the side of the mother. So if you start at 12 minutes and 32 seconds, it'll start with the interview of these two children. You guys can look at it for yourself, make your own conclusions. This guy does a pretty good job of not trying to guide you one way or the other, but I'm just trying to connect some dots, and I'm going to get right into it. I don't want to fart around with it. So that's where I see this. These two children are now with their father, just like Bryce Taylor was talking about, in the same right, in the same regard. Okay, so we went over that. Talked about this. Oh, here is another point that comes from the Hampstead case that I almost forgot to talk about. But there is a system of tunnels, and this comes from the Satanic McMartin preschool interview. And now this is also a two-part interview. It's only about 20 minutes of your time that you can look at. But he talks about these tunnels, and when he went in with a geological excavator, you could see that this dirt here had been undisturbed, and that this dirt here was disturbed. So they filled back in these tunnels, and then the children were discredited because they described tunnels same as the Hampstead did with um, their peers, their I want to say their peers, but their teachers, the people, their abusers. Um, they described them in secret locations in the place. So in this McMartin case, these tunnels actually connected to different rooms. They went to different places. They went across the street. He talks about this plate that they found in it. There was also a Walt Disney bag that was found in it. This is a hole on the lower left of the screen here in the minimal part. This is a hole that he talks about an avocado root of a tree being cut off and still alive on one side, and then the same one being severed and dead on the other side, showing that there is a very specific time frame by which this hole was made um, in relation to the hole size and the way that the avocado root would have went through there, but they dug through it in order to make these tunnel systems. And this isn't the only thing that the tunnel systems are related to. This is just one of many that it's related to. And with the recent QAnon posts, they talked about what if Hugh Hefner was a clown in America, CIA operative, and then this guy does a really good job of connecting the dots from Hugh Hefner to the mind control and being CIA, and his Wonderland Studios that are a part of this. So again, I'll link the description to this so that I don't make it a super long video, and then you guys can follow up on the information I'm giving you. And at any rate, they talk about this is the link in his description, and please check this video out because he's got a lot of great links. He does a great job of explaining it. He talks about the different things, but this is a blueprint or a layout or something of the sort of the tunnel system that's underneath the Playboy Mansion and the steps that come up inside the Playboy Mansion. And he talks about the possibility of taking children and then bringing them into the mansion and then putting high-end celebrities and the like into very uncompromising situations, so that they can be blackmailed or otherwise, and also further the MKUltra programming that's put into each child. And they come into the house, and that's an easy way to bring them to the mansion without them being seen, and then leave them again also, so that they can do it without much suspicion. And this is, in my opinion, stem from the kind of thing that the Freemasons would do. If you look up New York tunnels, Freemasonry, you'll see that the Freemasons actually were making tunnels underneath New York. And this here I put on the screen on purpose because of the flat plane, the perpendicular sides, and then the arch. This is how they made their tunnels underneath the ground. Same tunnels talked about here, and same tunnels that connect here, as well as the obvious McMartin case where they had tunnels underneath. And he goes on to talk about satanic symbols, rituals. Sorry about that, guys.
We're gonna go get some other kids real quick.
Try to edit that for you so that that's not in the final cut. Okay. Awesome.
Where are we going? All the kids. Where do all the kids? Daddy, can you touch you? Josh.
You can't tie him?
I can touch
You can tie both of them?
Yeah, I don't see her.
Who's right here?
Nina's in her bathroom going. Well, Nina's in her bedroom going to sleep. Nina's in her bedroom going to sleep. Oh, Daddy. Oh, Daddy, can I show you? Can I show you the house I built?
Don't know how to pause this exactly, but I'll try to edit it out in the final cut of the YouTube video. Alright. Sorry about that, guys. If you guys notice a cut in the video, it's because I had some friends come over and the dog started barking, so I'm probably going to cut that out. If I don't, it's because I'm an idiot when it comes to computers and I'm not that great at it. I mean, I can look up videos and put together all these connections, but I'm not computer savvy and I don't know how to do all this stuff. Yeah, connecting the tunnels to each other is pretty important, I think, because that's a big way of not having these guys get caught or be out in the open.
Dude, it happened like 45 minutes ago. I ran out of cold water, put an ice pack on, let's put some burn cream on it.
I guess I'll just have to cut a lot of the video out.
He's fine, he's just tired.
So, getting back into it, the Playboy Mansion has the things. If you watch this video, he does a very good job of connecting all the dots with Hugh Hefner and the CIA, or Clowns in America, that Hugh was talking about, or Q was talking about. Q was also talking about.
Well, what house are we going to?
Sorry, it's Thanksgiving, so we got some people over.
Ready, let's go. You got your coat on?
So yeah, this guy, like I said, watch this guy's video. Very good job putting it together. I'm very glad for his contribution.
Alright, we'll be back in a little while.
So
Yeah, wake her up, then we leave. You can go back to sleep.
there were also, if you remember, in the Pizzagate scandal, tunnels that led to a possible kill room. They had concrete torn up, and they were digging tunnels, and then they were talking about underpinning and keeping the tunnels open. I wanted to show this video here.
Salad dressing. End of the Cold War. There's another something that Sasha.
Okay, so before I say this, I just want to preface it by saying that the tunnels connecting all of these other cases also connect to this. And when we're talking about celebrities too, please go check out Roseanne and the connections that she talked about, very much so in Hollywood. And I'll leave a link to this video in the description if you guys want to go check that out. Can't find it on your own. But she's done a very good job of also voicing her end of it, and I just hope something comes of it. But going back to this and the tunnels. So there were tunnels connecting all of this. They talked about tunnels going from the properties that James Alefantis owned out into like a park where children came up missing, and some other things. And anybody familiar with the Pizzagate investigation will be able to find that information. If you're not familiar with it, do your own research, man. I'm not, I can't bring every aspect into this as much as I'd love to, because then this would be a very, very long video. You're just going to have to look into this yourself and see what you think. But here, Majestic Ape has a birthday party, and this birthday party is not for Majestic Ape, but it's for Sasha Lord. And Sasha Lord is going to be she's going to be tortured in a way, in a psychological way, same as the longing for the children that these two mind control slaves still feel. I feel like that this woman won't be able to fight against this system, because there's no place to run and there's no place to hide. And you'll see in the middle of it that she's going to laugh kind of nervously, and I don't know if it's disclosed in this or not. I haven't actually gotten a chance to totally preview this video, so I might not leave a link to the description. It's something that I do want to look up though. But in some other sources, Ted Gunderson talks about important dates to these pedophiles or the satanic ritual people, and as we know, some of us know, numerology is very important to these people. Cosmic events happen at certain dates. That's why 9/11 was the date that they really wanted to push for the major cataclysmic event, the same one that Bryce was kind of talking about in part of the interview, and I don't know if it was in this cut, but she says that the New World Order here in 1999, we're planning on doing it next year, 2000, the first time that 9/11 was supposed to happen, but then it got postponed for a year. And the reason they postponed it for a year was because of the numerology and the cosmic placement of the stars, and there's a lot going on there, and it's a whole separate video, I'm sure. But you can look that kind of stuff up, same as I did. But it's all on the internet, which is amazing. We live in this time. It's a good time to be alive, guys. Go back to the dark stuff. This lady is talking to Sasha Lord. She's talking about the celebrating the birth of our Lord, and she's talking about Sasha Lord, and it's almost like she's paying homage. But you can hear right here that this is psychological torture of her recounting an event that was very traumatic for this lady. So I'm going to play it and let you
has done for me. This is me personally. 6 years ago, before Facebook, I figured I was infertile, barren. So I asked Sasha to carry my baby. And you know what? She did it. At first, I was alarmed. I was a little worried. I was like, okay, she's Russian. She might sell it for vodka and soft toilet paper. But no, she didn't. She held on to that child all the way to the end. And the fucked up thing was really, it was after it was born. I had to put that shit down. Euthanasia. You want to know why? It came out really tiny. It didn't have any hair. It had this rope thing coming out of its stomach. It's fucking cord. I was like, is this what happens when someone have babies? And it kept saying, doo-doo, gaga, ah. And I was like, all this noise.
So, yeah, I'll leave a link to this in the description as well. You guys can check out this sick crap for yourself if you want to. It's really hard to stomach, though, as you can probably see. This is a very difficult thing to watch, and it's not easy to stomach or think about. But if you put this in context, and this is Sasha's birthday, and for her birthday present, he recounts a live birth in a place where he could euthanize the child. And I say he because Majestic Ape has been linked to be James Alefantis, and which I believe to be Sasha Lord's handler. But that's mere speculation. You can take me for what I'm saying and the inferences that I'm making or not. But he recounts this instance, and for the satanic purposes, he traumatizes her psychologically by bringing up this instance where he had her not only carry a baby for 9 months, but then at the end of it, I don't know if it was full term, he talks about the baby being small and whatnot, and crying. Apparently it was healthy enough to cry. But he talks about this whole instance, and brings it up and kind of puts it in her face in a very sick way that would make any mother turn her stomach if she had to live that in the first place, not only, but relive it. And that makes me think that this is some sort of like programming that maybe Alefantis came up with himself, or something of the life, and this is why I think that there's connections to this and MKUltra. This is something that I kind of wanted to put out for a while, but I haven't done it because I haven't properly done enough research to make it all make sense. But I feel like I'm there now, and hopefully we can get through all this. So I'll probably put some kind of thing in the description about this being fair use and the whole nine in order to put my video up so that I don't have any kind of like copyright infringements. I tried to play small snippets of the things that I wanted to show you. And I'll just go through here and make sure I've done everything I wanted to do. I guess I haven't. This is the final thing that I wanted to talk about. Now, as I pointed out, this has been very recent. This is published in 2017 at the beginning of this year. Somebody put this out and let it be here. And I really think that there's a connection to MKUltra, and I think that this person has been psychologically torturing. But I mean, how do you prove that without unlocking Sasha Lord's mind files? How do you unlock most of this stuff? If most of these people are hung or murdered or whatever, you'll never unlock the kind of torture that they've been through, or understand fully all of the connections that need to be made in order to prosecute the proper people. And this will stay hidden for a long time. So I really advocate trying to unlock their minds, but that's, I'm not a person that makes the law or makes the final judgment. So do what thou will, I guess. That's a whole other video too. Anyway, so this has been a very recent instance. This is related to the Pizzagate thing. Probably a lot of people have heard about Pizzagate and all of the things that Elefantis has done in the kill room on Instagram with the tunnels leading to it. And, you know, anytime somebody would find those or suspect those tunnels, they could just fill them in and make new entrances into that tunnel. And it would be very easy to do. And unless you excavated underneath the buildings and demolished them, you probably wouldn't find those kill rooms or the tunnels leading to the kill rooms, because they could always fill them in one spot like they did in the McMartin case. In the McMartin case, where they could and then they could redig into another spot and make a new tunnel. So, I mean, it's going to be very hard to catch these specific places unless you know how to find the underground places that they do these sort of things. In the Hampstead case, they talked about secret rooms behind places that they opened up, and then they went down into secret rooms where they abused them with different parts. And if you're willing to stomach that, then go watch that video. But if you're not, then I don't envy you. Or I do envy you, rather, because I had sat through this. It makes my stomach turn. But then there so there's the Pizzagate thing, there's the Hampstead thing, and I hope when they reopen these types of cases in order to get that thing in, I hope that we look into what she's saying and validate it by bringing down the people that have put her where she's at, and hopefully she can unlock her mind files and catch the people responsible, unlock the amnesic barriers around her memories in order to catch the people responsible for her situation. And then also there is the murder of Tiffany Jenks that happened, I guess, in 2013, if I have my memory, if my memory serves correct. And this guy, John S. Captain, he's been putting videos up about the audio tapes that he has, and I hope that our government takes seriously what he has to say in order to take down this particular vein of MKUltra people, including the doctor that is here. And if you listen, you can see how he is screwing up her head.
Point at you in addition. There's a war going on between the light and the dark. And people that are of the light are being attacked by people of the dark. And I will tell you, that's going to get a lot worse. I don't know who you are, and you should never tell anybody who you are. Alright? Nobody that doesn't know doesn't need to know. You know why? Because it will make you a target. And targets get shot at first.
Okay. Alright, so then John S. Captain also goes on to talk about this instance. But I'm just going to touch on a few things that I see. She has an identity crisis, it seems like, and she's paying this therapist in order to help her get through this therapy. This guy's being paid to do this, and he tells her that she's not allowed to tell anybody who she is. And I think that's to further reinforce having to be self-reliant and not having any confirmation from anybody that she is who she says she is or who she thinks she is, and then it's a way to confuse her mind. I think that he's got a valid point in thinking that this might be MKUltra related, and I'm hoping that Trump and the other investigative teams looks into this case as well and helps this gentleman find justice and puts away these MKUltra handlers, including this lady's therapist. But also, when he goes through that spiel, he says that if you do tell anybody, you'll become a target, and targets get shot at first. Tiffany Jenks died from a gunshot wound to the head. So it was very cryptic and very telling that he knew about it. John S. Captain is trying to confirm that she knew her killer and that it was premeditated, and trying to get the people to look at it properly. But as we talked about with the Hampstead case and what Bryce Taylor actually talked about, these people in these secret societies and secret proceedings. It's a JFK shout out for anybody who didn't know. They talked about how the case got thrown out for these people, and then they went to their father, who was the abuser, which is something she touched on, as well as the Masonic hand signs. So this guy probably will never find true justice without unbiased trial. Somebody that's not in Masonry. And that's, I think, why Britain has stopped the placement of Freemasons into their political offices. So this has been Curtis Locker. If I release this video, hopefully you guys can share it if you guys found the information to be helpful. I just want this truth to get out there, and I want people to kind of understand the connections, and I want Tiffany Jenks' former boyfriend to be vindicated. I mean, they were going to be married, and that was part of the reason that Tiffany Jenks was killed, from my understanding. I want Becky Percy to be safe, and I want justice for these children, because it makes me sad to see children be subjected to these types of things, and I really want those people to be vindicated. And I don't want to watch TV anymore because of all the links to Hollywood. But I want to be able to watch a show and not have to fear that the children or the adults were being controlled by some kind of handler. And I hope you guys feel the same way. You guys can obviously do what you want and think what you want, but please at least check out what I've put here and see if it makes sense to you. Thanks, guys.